Can you not love? Hey, hello. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed my wonderful singing voice. Thank you for being here. Thank you to those of you who came on over with the Tony Express. For those of you who are here via other various recommendations, awesome. Love to have you here. We do serious talk. We're going to have a serious talk today with a great guest who has been on top-level campaigns, presidential, other stuff. And he's got all the insight on what's going on with House races, which, as you know, we have that little porn monitoring weirdo, Mike Johnson, right now, who is running the House, or theoretically running the House. And if he remains there, we will never pass anything, even if we have the Senate and even if we have the presidency. So we must win the House. It's looking really good. I brought it up a little bit on Tony's show. But for those of you who come from other places, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Obviously, yesterday was frickin' insane. Do you want to know how insane it was? I'm going to tell you guys. 11,300 of you in the chat at different points. That's some serious stuff. I got to tell you. We even afterwards, it kept going, and another 12,000, 23,000 watched this overall so far, which is insane. Listen to Cynthia. Please like and subscribe. There we go. And LFG dark at something at Shabdu. Thank you for that. As you guys know, I do love doing this. It's interactive. Today won't be completely questions and answers, but I'll still try to get to all of the stuff you got. Is the wrong camera on? You're looking at a different screen. Good question. Right now, am I looking at the right screen? Let's see settings. You're right. The wrong camera's on. See, that's what's so much fun about this, guys, is like you never know when I am going to completely screw stuff up. Okay, this should be okay. We okay now? Right camera? Boom, I get from Adam Berry. All right. All right. See, it's what makes me human, my screw-ups. And also my interrupting, and I'm interrupting fucking everybody today, so you better be ready for that. Thank you, Jim. Support me on Patreon, please. You can become a YouTube member. You can become a Patreon member. These are the things. I've already created my first extra video, and I swear I'm going to do another one today, actually, on some insight I have on this election. I'm going to take it to you guys first, who are members, and then I'm going to share it with everybody else later, because you deserve something for the fact that you are kind enough to pay a little extra to be there. Much better not counting your nostril hairs. I don't know what that means, but I hope you're not counting my nostril hairs. Maybe you're talking to somebody else in there. Who knows? Yes, Alex Shuditsky, smash that like. We need algorithmic juice. It is what we thrive on. It's like hamburgers for Donald Trump. Kirk Stromberg's the first one to step up. Thank you, Kirk. Gives me $5. We were going to win the House, unlike Trump's casinos. Nicely played, Kirk Stromberg, everybody. That is correct. The House always wins, except for when it's Donald Trump who runs casinos. Seriously, the dude ran casinos into the ground. Casinos are places where people walk in, they hand you their money for nothing. You ply them full of drinks. You pump oxygen in the room to keep them awake. You disorient them by having no windows and clocks. Have you ever noticed that before, folks? Have you gone to places? So that all they do is pay attention to gambling and losing their money. It's the easiest gig in the world once you've got it, and Trump found a way to lose money. He's a great businessman like Elon Musk, who's using his app brilliantly. If you listen to we are at Tony's show also, and you understand that how badly he is absolutely, positively fucking up the early turnout which is just glorious if he ends up being partially responsible and then Trump turns on him. Because he will be. He already fired the people that were supposed to be knocking doors in Michigan. The thing about when you fire people and then you get rid of them is they can't knock doors unless they have some sort of superpower. Hey, Nail Tech Life, my friend, you're awesome. $9.99 super chat. How does Trump get to vote being a felon and also go in the polling station wearing a MAGA cap? That's a great question. They reinstated voting for felons if they pay some fee, because of course they're trying to get a poll tax on anybody and stop Democrats from voting there. But they did reinstate felon voting. I think nonviolent felons should be able to vote, if you ask me. I just think Trump's an evil, violent felon who encouraged January 6th. And if Merrick Garland had gotten his head out of his ass, Trump would be standing for re-election right now. So no, he shouldn't be able to vote because he encourages violence. I think nonviolent former offenders, and he hasn't gone to prison yet. He got convicted though, so I don't think he should. Once you've served your time, if it's nonviolent, I'm all for you getting your rights back to vote. And that depends. I mean, there could be nonviolent crimes where you absolutely destroy a family and, in the market, steal all of their money and destroy them. And then I think there's some things you can do to people that are akin to violence that now. So what do you guys have today? Sister Soul saying hi. Hey, how are you? Or maybe to other people, but I'm saying hi to you anyhow. WKRP in Cincinnati. That's right, guys. Here, let me give you a little story quickly. That was set here because the Queen City, as we call it, this used to be known as Radio City. So you went to New York to make it on Broadway and to make it in advertising fashion. You went to LA to make it in the movies, and you came here to make it in radio. We were the Radio City. You've heard of this guy, I'm going to guess. His name is George Clooney. His aunt was Rosemary Clooney, quite a famous singer who sang on the radio. And she was born in Northern Kentucky, not far from here. And again, so for her to build her career, she moved to what was then known as the Radio City. It's kind of a cool little thing. There's a lot of cool little things about Cincinnati like that. But another cool little thing that I can think of is Tony Michaels. So they had that cool. Just kidding, Tony. I'm sure I'm
not that cool.
Like Arnold Palmer on a windy day.
How's it going, Cliff?
That guy Tony. When they saw him in the showers, they were like, "He's all man."
Oh man. No, that's not that. I'm the opposite of Arnold Palmer in that department. I'm not going to lie to people. So
I think it's very nice of you to be honest. I
try to tell the truth, even if it doesn't bode well for me. So
what doesn't bode well for you? Oh, talk. Hold on, I dropped something.
What doesn't bode well for me?
Yeah,
I mean, I guess the size of my my Arnold Palmer in the shower, but. I'll tell you.
All right, let's. Well, that's a fascinating and glorious conversation. I meant what doesn't bode well for you in a more general sense of right now. Is there anything not boding for you in your view of our political landscape?
I will say the thing that really kind of pisses me off, and I hope that there are folks in law enforcement paying attention, that Steve Bannon would signal that they're going to attempt a second coup. The idea that you would have like a war room is that's not out of turn. Even if it's not an official war room, there's a lot of people in media.
They've called political rooms war rooms before, right. So that's
right. But to do it at the Willard Hotel is Steve Bannon signaling that they're attempting a second coup. That really kind of pisses me off. So that doesn't bode well with me, in that they're in Washington near the Willard Hotel, if not the Willard Hotel itself. They're like boarding shit up to stave off any violence that the MAGA garbage may like to commit because their orange Mussolini Jesus grandpa concentration camps loses. So that doesn't really bode well for me.
No, me neither. I'd like to say a couple things. One is I find it ironic that they called the island of Puerto Rico garbage, and they hang around Steve Bannon, who literally looks like he crawled out of a dumpster and on any day that you see him. Second of all, yes, the treason. To go back, if you're right, and I don't know this, and I trust you on this, but if they are actually at the Willard Hotel again, that's symbolism. that is sending a message to the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and every one of these other dumb chuckle fuck groups that yeah, wink, wink, do it again. Kind of like Trump wearing the Proud Boy colors. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. So the fact that they're even back there, but I think I may have told you this, Tony, when we spoke offline. I want to tell everybody else this, so maybe they will feel a little bit better. I have a friend who's high up in classified security, national security, and he did tell me that from his knowledge, he couldn't get into specifics, but that Homeland Security and aspects of the FBI, DOJ, whatever, have been on this for a long time now. Like literally tracing who the threats are and where they are, and that kind of thing. It still pisses me off to no end that we have to board up DC, that we have to act like we're some fucking developing country. No, I shouldn't say that, because developing countries, obviously I hope the best for, but we have to act like we're some low-level dictatorship, and be prepared for that because of this asshole, and all these people have supported him and stood by him. Yeah, that really ticks me off. I would also say that even the fact that, how many groups, from the folks in Iran to China to wherever, constantly have various plans against us. Yet we have to use all of these folks for Donald Trump's followers. We have to have all these people paying attention to Donald Trump's followers. What do they maybe miss in terms of an international attack or something? Because I hate to say this, but if I'm one of the bad guys and I see this, this would invite me right now to think that maybe there are softer American targets abroad that I could hit. And it pisses me off to no end that we're spending, by the way, our taxpayer money, but also the time and resources of these folks to track these fucking assholes. So yeah, that too. Look, I'd be shocked if there's not sporadic violence here and there. I mean, again, what that idiot with the MAGA cap did, that was sporadic violence. Luckily, it didn't turn out really badly for anybody, but there was an altercation there. I'm hoping it doesn't get worse than that. It may, but I do think that if any of the guys in organized groups try stuff, I think they are watching the hell out of them and will be ready this time. Remember, he was the incumbent last time, and he wanted this to happen. This time, we have an incumbent who does not. So that is a good thing. But it's angering. It's just all of it is. Go ahead, Tony. Throw something out there, my man.
Well, and it's not just Steve Bannon. It's also some of these other little lieutenants like Mike Flynn and Ivan Ranklin, who it looks like their focus is going to be North Carolina. Now, we've talked about this before, I think either on here or on my show, is that all these states that they really want to cause chaos in, democracy kind of stood in the way in 2022, whether it be Arizona, whether it be Michigan, whether it be Pennsylvania, whether it be North Carolina, because all those states have a Democratic governor. And if people aren't aware of this, the National Guard that is designed to guard the states from any kind of threat, which would be the force that would be called in first by the governor of those states, because the governor actually has, they're the commander in chief of their state's National Guard. So in North Carolina, a Democrat, Governor Cooper, would have authority over his security service for his state.
And we have the attorney general there. We have sort of all the top positions.
Right.
Let me say quickly, thank you, Kirk Stromberg, for the $5. These mouth-breathing militia groups with their ARs are going to find out real quick up against the dark-branded military. Well, yeah, I mean, again, they will. I worry about any damage they can do to innocent people ahead of time. But if they think with their AR-15s, which are weapons of war, but up against what the National Guard and others have, just drone them, as far as I'm concerned. Just drone them all. and not even waste our troops' time. But in any case, go ahead. I'm sorry, Tony.
No. Well, and the same as Arizona and Michigan and some of these other states, Pennsylvania being one, because I know they're probably going to try to start shit in Philly. I think it was the district attorney of Philadelphia came out and made a statement and said, hey, fuck around, find out. He said F around, but he meant fuck around and find out. He said there will be no people playing playing militia is what he which I believe is his exact words.
Yay, we dressed up. We're so tough.
They sure are, aren't they? So I have pretty high confidence that we're not going to see mass scale violence. Now, Donald Trump would prefer it to be that way. If we're gonna if we're gonna talk about what he would prefer, which I think there's a lot of predictions that could be made about what Donald Trump is and isn't going to do, and really in the lead up to the election being called. But more importantly, it's going to be about him. What time is he going to come out and say, I won already? Is it before the polls close? Is it right when the polls close? I mean, that's what we don't kind of know he's going to say some crazy shit. We just don't know when he's going to unroll that crazy shit.
Well, and the thing I'm more worried about is how can you protect, there are certain places you can protect, right? Temples, mosques that are targets for these guys. But how can you protect, millions of immigrants? You know what I mean? And thank you, Real Bill P, member for a month. I appreciate it. That's the stuff that upsets me is that, what happened in El Paso when that person walked into a Walmart and just started shooting anybody they thought was an immigrant. Like, those types of things, unless you know of every lone wolf lunatic out there, because again, what Republicans have done by putting weapons in all these people's hands, this is one of the biggest reasons up there with women's reproductive rights, democracy in general, climate, that we absolutely have to hold the Senate and we need to obviously win the presidency and win the House, because we need to pass a half dozen gun laws, from universal background checks to an assault weapons ban to red flag laws to whatever, enforceable laws to try and start taking guns out of some of these people's hands that are lunatics and should not have them. And some states do, but some states don't. And that's the thing. And that's why they're dangerous, because all it takes is one person, with a weapon like that. So I agree with you. I think large scale violence, no, I think we're ready for that. I think the National Guard's ready for that. I think governors, again, the only state that has that's a real swing state among the top core swing states that has a Republican governor is Georgia. I don't think Raffensperger and Kemp, even though they're wimps, get along hugely well with Trump. They've obviously fought with him. Still, they'll purge votes and pull their garbage because they're Republicans, and Republicans only know how to cheat. But I don't know that they would support wholesale sort of military, let's call it, activity or things of that nature. I think they would get with the program if something really bad were to happen.
The other thing too that I'll say is I would like for them to try to go fuck around and find out in Philadelphia. Yeah. Maybe MAGA does understand it, but it feels like they don't understand if they're going to go to Philly and Philadelphia and cause a bunch of trouble in that city. I don't think you really get what kind of pushback you're going to get to march into their city and think you're going to do something. I don't know. I feel like that's not going to work very well.
They've tried with New York before and other places. Philly is a big town with some people that can kick your ass.
Right.
I lived there for a couple of years. I want to wish you luck going into Philly.
Right. Well, the other thing too is when you consider another county or another place is Maricopa County in Arizona. That's going to be a big focus of theirs. And the reason why is because if Donald Trump loses Maricopa County, he's lost Arizona.
Well, that's 70% of the vote there,
right.
Something like that, right? That's where a lot of MAGA's focus is going to be. Their focus is going to be on North Carolina because it's one of the first states that will turn against Trump, and he needs North Carolina. They will focus on Philadelphia, and the reason why is because Philly is going to go big for Kamala Harris. And Philly's a big enough city that it can overwhelm the rest of the state.
Yes, and the other thing too that I want to bring up in that Philly demographic is I think there's 500,000 registered Puerto Ricans that live in Philly. I think it's 500,000.
I don't know if in Pennsylvania. I don't know if they're all in Philly.
Excuse me. I meant Pennsylvania, but the majority of them are in the Philly area. Yeah, right. They're in the Philly area because it is such a large city. Mm-hmm.
Yes. I'm sure there's some in Pittsburgh or whatever, but
right.
the large majority are Philly.
Right. And so that's another reason why Trump and MAGA is going to focus on Philly, because they know it's going to go big for Kamala, and it's probably going to swing for Kamala, meaning it's going to swing from 2020 more towards her, not just a status quo. It's going to swing more towards the Democratic column, which I don't know I don't know what Pennsylvania's numbers is going to be, but I'm thinking we're going to get to that 200, maybe 250,000 margin. I think it was 80.
Let me jump in.
Yeah.
1 second. I just want to say thanks to Kirk Stromberg. I won California, Minnesota, and I even won Puerto Rico, which had a floating island of ballots cast for me. These Puerto Ricans love me. I think we're doing a Trump impression. And yes, I can see him saying that. Thank you for the $5 super chat. No Money G, thank you for the $5 super chat. Here's to the first female president. Madam President Harris, we're not going back. Abso-fucking-lutely. Tony, continue. Sorry.
Well, and I think, I think that's the, we were talking about the closing arguments of these campaigns, and the closing argument that we are garbage, wear your garbage bags, show them that you're Trump trash is kind of a really weird closing argument, especially when Kamala Harris is like, hey, I want to give you $25,000 tax credit if you're a new home buyer. I want to give you a $6,000
reinforces the Puerto Rico
credit.
comment.
Right. Yeah, it also reinforces it.
Right. Most people didn't hear the Biden one. I know they live in their bubble, but most people never heard that. They did hear the Puerto Rican one because that one, because of Latino influencers, just was everywhere. So all like his little garbage truck stunt, them dressing up in garbage, all that's doing is rubbing salt in the wounds of Puerto Ricans who they've already insulted. I mean, are they just the dumbest motherfuckers alive? Again, anybody could want to be ruled by the stupidest among us. I made sure purposely today on the way into work to listen to a couple of songs I thought were, would get me pumped up and sort of represent my mood right now. Of course, I played, Rage Against the Machine, a little fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, because of the authoritarian state, killing in the name of course, being the name of the song. But and now I'm losing it. God damn it, I'm an idiot. I'm old. There was another song that I was purposely listening to because I felt like it had the moment. Not that one. What was it? Fuck. I'll come back to it. Point being, we're not putting up with their shit. We're not like Philly. If they go and they try to mess with people in Philly, can I give you my reaction? If they do, as somebody who lived there for a while, here's my reaction. Donald Trump, you should vote for Donald Trump. Hey, fuck you. That's my reaction to what goes down in Philly. It's not going to turn out the way they think it's going to turn out if they go and they try to mess. Philly is hardcore, like New York. East Coast cities are something else. So
they'll basically destroy their city even if their sports team wins. Like that's how serious they are about
that's dedication.
Right. That's dedication to a certain amount of violence. Right. Like, yeah. I want people to understand that when they're talking about mass scale violence, they're talking about mass scale violence that won't make a difference in the courts. There's no way for them to really go to all the states, to all the places that they need to go to the benches that they would have to be in front of to intimidate these federal judges, because the federal judges are held by a Hippocratic oath. They can't just make a decision based on no evidence. It's not a thing they can do. And that's what Mark Elias has been trying to tell the country for quite some weeks. And it's the reason why Steve Bannon is so fucking pissed off and that he's trying to foreshadow another coup, is because he knows what's going to happen when Mark Elias gets in these courtrooms and absolutely destroys them, because there's going to be no evidence to back up their stupid claims. They already know that. They already know their plan is to lie. And their plan is to lie to the courts, and it's not going to work. And that's what Mark Elias was trying to say, is like, look, they can file any fucking lawsuit they want. Any lawsuit they want. If they want to spend money on filing 1 million lawsuits, fine. whatever. It doesn't mean that they're going to go past the bench. And the reason why is because you have to have something to have merit to bring a lawsuit.
Which is why 60-something cases, I see somebody saying Eileen Cannon there, but that's different. As much as that sucked, she was able to make some decisions based upon evidence being allowed and these kinds of things to harm a case against Trump that had to do with stolen national secrets. This is about you have to go into court. You're on the affirmative side and you're trying to say cheating happened. You have to actually show something that is even a fig leaf of cheating happening in any coordinated manner.
And the other thing, too, is these courts are expedited. That's the other thing I want people to understand is that today, right now, there are judges sitting in their chambers ready to receive a case. This isn't like a criminal court where like, we'll deal with it in 2 fucking months and we'll schedule this and we'll schedule that. They are ready to take these cases right now as we're speaking. Like there are probably cases being filed in courtrooms around the country right now by RNC lawyers and DNC lawyers.
My friend Cleta Mitchell. I'll have to keep replaying my debate with her.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that they are ready. These judges are ready. These attorneys are ready. They're ready to have these discussions and get this out of the way as fast as possible. And what I mean by get it out of the way is either say this case has merit and we'll move it along, or strike it down and say, yeah, that's all bullshit. Just keep with the law. So that is what is transpiring as we speak. And, again, Trump paints such a stupid picture of America, and he paints such a dumb lie of America. And Bannon
it's
doing
his America,
right?
In other words, his America, the just crude gauche, giving head to microphones and porn stars and sharks and batteries and. Well,
the star-spangled garbage can, as he might call it.
Star-spangled garbage can, humping the goddamn, American flag on stage. I mean, his version of America and the trashy people that show up dressed in garbage, again, appropriate to these rallies and whatever. That's his America. That reminds me of what I was going to say before I had my little brain fart, which is I was playing, of course, American Idiot on the way in because I think it just if that's not a MAGA theme song, if Green Day didn't nail exactly who MAGA is in that song, I don't know if anybody's done it better. And again, like that, this is what gets me about some of the people I know, who are more of the business class Republicans. Now, a lot of them ditched the Republicans, but a few I ditched Trump, but a few that I don't believe did. I won't even ask them because it would be a problem for us as colleagues and whatever. And it's just, again, if you're fucking trash, I can understand it. You can look at Trump and you've got nothing to lose. And your life's shit and you hate everything and you resent everything. But if you're business class Republicans, and I mean, this Jabberwocky, this cretin, this crawling, grotesque slime leaving, he's like a big fat snail that crawls and leaves slime behind him. He's just repulsive in every way possible. Again, like, are there any other humans that you can think of in the United States, just off the top, maybe Elon Musk, who have every single one of the 7 sins, who have every other bad male quality, that people who understand business and know that you need stability, you need common sense, and people who think before they talk because it kills markets and products and whatever, like that they could vote for this to put essentially, they might as well have just picked one of these assholes in like a Trump flag dancing around like they're at like, Grateful Dead for morons at one of his, rallies and made them president because they're just as smart as Donald Trump is. I mean, they're interchangeable.
The Grateful Dead of morons. That's great. Then they're kind of like they're not even Grateful Dead. They're just zombies.
Right. Well, it feels like it's like a Grateful Dead show, except for it's not smart, good-meaning people.
Right.
It's the Grateful Dead for like horrific, cruel, stupid, gross.
They're garbage Nazi zombies. That's what they are. It's garbage Nazi zombies. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, that's actually good. You could say if they live over there, instead of the DMZ, you could be like, don't go across the GNZ. I think we have to start doing that.
Cliff,
Real Bill P. It's time for Democrats to break the glass and unleash some legal whoop arse. Nice. I like people who use arse, the British version. Well done. Thanks, Cliff and Tony. I couldn't agree more. Legal, political. We need to be whooping lots of arse in lots of ways. I see what Cynthia Rice, and I'm going to let you go. I know you need to go, Tony. But important here, because I know you've got Mark Cuban and Jamie Dimon both support Harris. They do, but Jamie Dimon's a wimp about it, won't talk about it out loud, and just sort of quietly. We need more of the Mark Cubans who do talk about it out loud to get together and honestly have these conversations about combating all of the propaganda from the right and really, really sort of building up networks to fight back against that, to undo some of the damage they've done. You know, the people who've written about this, the woman who made that, you know, what was it, the documentary, The Brainwashing of My Father, or whatever, all about Rush Limbaugh turn. You know, I mean, you can see actual changes in people's brain chemistry. I'm not kidding you, like real. When they watch things like Fox
it's brainwashing
for a long time, like they people that were once nice. I mean, we let Fox destroy a generation of older folks. And again, I'm sorry, I'm not accepting the First Amendment as a defense of this. If it destroys people, kills them, makes them broke, whatever, because through disinformation and lies, no, it's not the same thing as legit information. And it is to me a radical thing to believe that it is, and we need to do something about it, because social media, other things are only going to get more prevalent. People like that are only going to get bigger accounts. I mean, Elon already has 200 million followers. I know I've heard that like half of them are fake, but even if half of them are fake, he's at 100 million followers, you know, and they're sharing absolute garbage out there, brainwashing people. And that's, again, democracy won't, you know, we'll win this one and we're going to do well, but unless we reform that, so we take this opportunity to reform our media environment, our information environment, as well as our courts, numerous other institutions, we won't make it in the long term, 10 years from now, whatever. Eventually, they'll have somebody step up without all of Trump's flaws, but with the same policies.
I think you're right. I want to mention one more thing before we go, because we've been talking about demographics, and we did it on my show about, you know, the Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania pissing off women all around the country. But I want
Mormons in Arizona. I mean, we got into it, baby.
But I want to say that one demographic that we missed was Wall Street. Wall Street has abandoned Trump. And the reason why Wall Street has abandoned Trump is because he can't even fucking articulate his plan on tariffs. And it terrifies the business community that this guy not only will destroy the economy based on a pissing match with Xi Jinping, or what he considers a pissing match with Xi Jinping, but not only that, he's not even willing to come to grips with what he's saying is absolute bonkers. It's not even based in any sort of reality. And when you're talking to business people who are really trying to protect their money, as shitty as that is, that they're making their vote based on their money, if anyone is making a vote based on their money in this country, they're voting for Kamala Harris. If they're not completely brainwashed and delusional, they're going to go, even if they say they're voting for Trump, they're going to go in there, they're going to vote for Harris. And the reason why is because any kind of economic thing, just the word tariff pisses off the business
freaks
community.
Out. Yes, the business community, based on tariffs, based on his lack of understanding of basic economics, which he showed a couple of times when he went to those forums, his instability. Again, two things I brought up many times: markets and foreign policy need and like stability. They don't want an X factor in there where somebody may yap off and say something crazy, which Trump did a number of times during his presidency, that sent certain stocks tumbling, or, you know, international exchanges, or had us on almost war footing with other, you know, like, but I mean, when it comes to the economy, you're right. A large list of CEOs was released who all endorsed Kamala Harris. You really only have three groups, I would say, that I can think of, you know, of those business
the
elite
crypto
that
bros.
Trump. Right. You've got the crypto bros, who want to destroy America. So Trump's perfect because they want to disrupt it. And that means destroy our economy, destroy the dollar as a reserve currency, which if all these idiot MAGA people knew that they were going to be literally eating apple cores and fucking mice, you know, because they'll have nothing if this guy destroys the dollar. But that's what they want to do because they want Bitcoin to be the world reserve currency. So that's one economic group. Second one are religious lunatics. They may be the head of big companies or whatever, but they're such fucking crazy
Zealots.
Jesus freaks that they're zealots. So, they don't think about business. And the third group, of course, are crony capitalists, the ones that are friends with Trump and know they'll get special government contracts, special tax breaks.
The broligarchy.
Well, there's the broligarchs who I think the policies will love because they think Trump. I mean, they'll get those two overlap. The broligarchs will get Trump destroying our economy, which they want, and the deregulation and all the other shit. That this other group that somewhat overlaps with them, but some of them are on Wall Street. I think just like Trump, because they know that he will give them. Not only will he most likely share inside information with them because he commits crimes like most of us breathe, but he'll also make sure their firms are hired for various things, and they know that they'll get a competitive advantage.
That's a great description. I want to give you the other side of the coin, though, because the other side of the coin, the ugly side of the coin is that Trump's an idiot, right? And business people are like, you're an idiot. That'll destroy our fucking business. I don't want you to destroy my business. On the other side of the coin, you have Kamala Harris's policy, just two alone economic policies that business people, especially small community business people, are paying attention to, is a $25,000 tax credit for new home buyers, and then the $6,000 child tax credit. Folks, there is nothing more exciting to small business people who seek out customers for their profit than people who get $25,000 to buy a house in their community, and then they get $6,000 per child per year to spend money at their business. Folks, the two economic policies as far as a business is concerned are there is so much light between these. They are light years away from each other. And I want to tell you that if there is a business person out there who says they're voting for Donald Trump, don't do business with them. They are a fucking
That's
idiot.
Right.
They're not only are they politically stupid, they are fucking so stupid about business and economics. They do not deserve to be in business, and you should not do business with them. They are a fucking chucklehead because they do not understand fundamentally the economy.
Here's the easiest way we can sum this up. Center-right, Tory publication, The Economist. Okay, folks, The Economist, as its name would imply, really just cares about the economy. They're not worrying about whether me or Tony are eating tonight. Right. They're worried about the economy.
They don't give a shit about your bodily autonomy. They don't care about racism. No, they don't give a shit about any of that.
They care about good economic times. They want lower taxes. They want less regulation. A bunch of things that fuck them for. But they get the importance of stability. They get the importance of investment and in R&D and infrastructure and all these things that people that get business know you have to invest some in it to improve. They get that destroying the dollar is sort of really fucking stupid idea. They get all of this, and they endorsed Kamala Harris as a center-right publication because she's the one who has a moderate economic plan that also it's moderate in terms of its regulation and taxes on the economy, but she's also raising taxes, making sure corporations are paying more, making sure that the broligarchs are paying more. She's also giving paid family and medical leave to everyone, which only pulls at about 85% or so. These things that actually will help everyday people economically. Because guess what happens when you don't lose your job because you have a child or you have to stay home with a sick child or whatever. You may these days, especially with everything being you can do 90% of things remotely, you can still get stuff done. But no paid family and medical leave for you so again. Tony, I think, summed it up, and I just want to throw out The Economist because again, The Economist endorsing a Democrat, that's a thing.
We live in an alternate universe. It is a Twilight Zone when that happens. Cliff, thanks for having me on. I hope you continue to answer some questions in your chat there because I will. We'll have plenty of them. And I know
we're going to do that. We've got a great guest coming up who is going to in 5 minutes. Yeah, Brett DeResta, who is he's been on presidential campaigns and everything in between, is one of the top opposition researchers in the country. Old friend of mine, and he is going to talk about he has working on a bunch of House races right now. And I don't feel like we've talked a lot and how important the House is.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, how big that win's going to be. I think seeing we'll start to see these polls or these states start to close and the polls close, and we'll start to get these numbers in, and we're really going to get a sense of how big the majority is that Speaker Hakeem Jeffries will have. And that's going to be crucial if we also retain the Senate and maybe gain a seat in the Senate, because then Kamala Harris will have the ability to do certain parts of reform that she's been talking about, not talking about how she's garbage like Trump has. She's been out there talking about policies that she wants to use and help Congress pass to help the American people. So sounds like a great guest and sounds like a great conversation. Thanks for having me on, Cliff. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Wow. Am I seeing this? Chipmunk Milk, last thing here. Bernard Marcus, billionaire behind Home Depot, dies at 95. You may have known he was one of the biggest Trumpers in the fucking world. So I would like to just say one thing just to show in response, and here it is.
That's great. That's a great ending.
If I believed there were a hell, I'd be happy he'd be there. I'm not sure.
I'll see Bernard Marcus there really soon, because I know I've got
I have a feeling I'll be down there too. But you know what? When we go there, we can kick his ass together every day.
That's right. Cliff, thanks for having me. We'll talk to you later, audience. Stick around and ask this guy some questions, because he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's right. We got a couple minutes till Brett gets here. Thanks, Tony. We got a couple minutes till Brett gets here. So let's do it, man. Ask me some questions. Let's talk stuff and things. And stuff and things. Rest in misery. Yes. Seriously, I don't believe in that. You know, there are all these people like, don't dance on somebody's grave. Terry S., love you. Cliff and Tony, thank you. But I tend to not, I was brought up not to do it. There's an exception. There are people I don't particularly like, and I'll kind of just not say anything. There are people that to me are so evil that I will. And, when Rush Limbaugh died, I danced a jig. Here, I don't care. This guy funded the furthest right-wing elements to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. So no sympathy. Fuck him. I hope he's in a place where it's really hot. I hope that I'm wrong and hell does exist. And he's there. Maybe he's well, I was going to make a him and Saddam Hussein joke from South Park. But if you guys get that, you get it. And if you don't, I'll get demonetized here. So I'm not going to do that. I wonder if Bernard has left his money to Leonard Leo. Could have. I wouldn't be surprised if he left some of it. Yeah, that motherfucker, Leonard Leo. Jesus. Simon Battle, thanks, Cliff, for all your hard work bringing us to this day. Did I get the wrong one? That's why I never shop at Home Depot. By the way, I do not. I'm sorry, Simon. I was going to highlight this because I appreciate you for that comment. Look, man, I used to describe it to people that I wanted to be like my kid when he walks off a soccer field, and I see him and he's like sweat dripping down. He looks like he's going to fall over. And I know that he has left it all in the field. I've left it all in the field. Yeah, I've done it in my official capacity, in my unofficial capacity, calls and door knocking, and I've donated, and I can only say I've tried to fight back against the media, pressure them, use whatever platforms I have to knock them into line, to not be both sides bullshit. And I think many other folks succeeded to a certain degree towards the end. So they started to talk about Trump's cognitive difficulties in a way they didn't before. I think, hopefully we helped buck up Democrats who broke away from this culture of meekness, learned during the Reagan years by, no offense to boomers, but boomer representatives. I think once Gen X and millennials and even some Z folks started taking over, we started seeing, the Swalwells and the Jasmine Crockett's and the Ted Lieu's, the Gretchen Whitmers kick ass. And that is becoming the culture of the party. And I've dreamt of that for years. And Kamala's campaign was perfect that way. And I see Brett DeResta is here. We are going to add Brett to the stage. Ooh, look at all those books behind Brett. I bet he's better read than I am.
They're actually just fake cutouts. I have alcohol behind them for when the returns start coming in tonight.
Oh, yeah. Well, I understand that. Now you're speaking my language. Quick run back through the memory mill, so to speak. I had to work on this race in Kentucky a against Mitch McConnell, I believe it was. Was that the one where we first worked together, or were you on the one with Lunsford for me first?
It was Lunsford.
Lunsford. The governor's race, I don't want to go into it. Our candidate was not great, and we lost. But I met Brett. I had to actually go live in Kentucky. And no offense to Kentucky, but it was interesting. I must admit that I did live, the part I lived in had the gun shop next to the tobacco shop next to the church, which I like that you can really do all your sins. There may have been a porn shop there too. You can do it all and then just go and apologize for it at the end of the block, which I thought was a nice combo. But we met there. We've been in touch ever since. We've done some business together at times. And Brett, I could say what I think, which is hands down, Brett's the smartest opposition researcher that exists, that I've come across. He certainly is respected as one of the top ones in the Democratic Party, has worked on presidential races, Senate races, governor's races on down, has written about it for the New York Times, a newspaper I now fucking hate, but still hard to get your stuff published there. So let's start with Brett and see what he says. Cece here says, Cliff, do you feel this election will be a referendum on Republicans up and down the ballot? Hey, why don't I kick that one to you, Brett, and see what you think, and you can then get from that to the House, I think.
I think it already is a referendum on Republicans up and down the ballot. I think it's telling that we're seeing, we saw in 22, we saw in 20, that while Trump has this magnetism for bringing certain folks out of the woodwork, the Republican Party itself does not. We really should have taken a beating in 2022. It's just general historic precedent that the party in power, especially during an economic downturn, tends to lose seats. We didn't. We held on to the Senate. We lost a few in the House, but not very many. And clearly, the Republicans couldn't figure out how to lead their way out of a paper bag.
Oh my God, that whole spectacle from McCarthy to was Jim Jordan the one they were thinking about for a little bit, Mr.
Yeah.
I can't see anything. I can't hear anything. Wow. Go ahead.
So I think we've already seen that this is a referendum. So yes, and that's why, I was listening to you earlier, Cliff, and that's why I think it's really important that not only do we win, but we win decisively. Because we need two functioning parties. There are a lot of people on the other side that I don't agree with, but I think are actually decent people. We just fundamentally disagree on how to go about things. And then there are
Jeff
people
Flakes, the Mitt although Mitt annoys me a little bit, but I think Lisa Murkowski's made a lot of mistakes, but is a decent person. I'd love to see the party remade in her image, but I don't know if that's possible. But I'm sorry, Brett. Go ahead.
We just want to beat them so bad that the hoaxers, the people who are there just grifting, the people who are there who are only there to sort of get likes, your Marjorie Taylor Greenes, your Lauren Boeberts, people who have no interest in actually helping the American public, just sort of figuring out what they're going to do, which reality TV show they're going to get on once they're turned out of office. We need. Well, I mean,
there's more showings of Beetlejuice, I think. So if she has extra time on her hands, I can't believe I was
going to say, I don't think we want to talk about her hands, period.
I didn't even mean that pun. Sometimes they just happen to you. Okay.
So clever. So,
not really. And it was a total mistake.
we're going to see this election cycle. I believe the Democrats are going to retake the House. And I think that is going to be the final repudiation of Trumpism and a lot of the stuff that they're putting forward. And hopefully Mike Johnson goes back to being the anonymous backbencher he absolutely deserves to be.
And he'll have more time to monitor his son's porn, which I know is something that's very important to him. So, he can do that, which is totally not weird or creepy at all. And he can go back to being a backbencher. And in all seriousness, no, I mean, he was a backbencher. The only thing that I know of he even did was get appointed to a law school that never actually ended up existing, and he got paid for it anyhow, being the dean of it in Louisiana. Like, he's got such a sordid, questionable past that you kind of know that right-wingers jumped in along the way and saw they could help push him forward. But, yes, serious people. Hakeem Jeffries is a serious person. I want a serious person who wants to actually help and improve things and make decisions. And I do believe, I'm not going to defend them because some of them have gone along with some of the worst crap. I do believe there's at least 15 or 20 Republicans left in the House who on a lot of this stuff would be willing to join Democrats and go along with some of the things that make a lot of sense. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit. But I think that there might be that many. And again, maybe you've got an answer here, Brett. We haven't seen this in modern history, right? I mean, I think the last time a major party blew up was the Whigs. So I guess the Republicans kind of came apart during FDR's, and the progressive wing went over to FDR, and then eventually the right wing racist Democrats, most largely from the South, but other areas too, went over to, left the Democrats for the Republicans. But we haven't seen anything like this. I mean, I think of to me, patient zero in all this is Newt Gingrich. When we're talking about the House, you replace. Yes, there were some crazies during Reagan's administration. No, I'm very much not a fan of what Reagan did in huge ways, but he ran a legitimate government where people wanted to solve certain policies, wanted to do things. A lot of what I thought they wanted to do was very wrong, but they did. Newt Gingrich was the first one to come in who just was a clown. Had no intention to solve any problems. They had no intention to come up with any real policies except for ones that would make his opponents look bad. Said outrageous things. I'll never forget that, it would be nothing today because Donald Trump says stuff like this all the time. But when that woman, her name was Susan Smith, drowned her kids and herself, drove her car into the water and killed herself and her kids in South Carolina somewhere, Newt Gingrich said this is what the Democrats do. It's their belief system that leads to stuff like this. Like, he was just a clown, and to go from Bob Michael, this moderate Republican from Illinois, this thoughtful guy, again, guy I would have disagreed with on plenty of things, but this thoughtful, intelligent guy to Newt, I feel like is when they took that jump and they started when Newt was not repudiated by the folks they didn't repudiate him, and remember, until he got into ethical trouble, became an embarrassment, and then they just replaced him with another horrible person who, by the way, Tom DeLay for a bit, who was a criminal, and I guess he was let off eventually on a technicality, and they replaced him with another criminal, Denny Hastert, who eventually went to prison for molesting 15-year-old boy. I mean, this has been the Republican Party we've known now for 20 to 30 years. And so I don't know how we get back to Gail Thomas. I see what you're saying about Reagan scapegoating welfare mothers. I'm not saying Reagan was a good guy. I can sit here and tell you, Reagan wouldn't say the word AIDS till 1987. Reagan had a lot of blood in his hands, did a lot of horrible stuff, not to mention Iran-Contra. I'm not saying he was good. I'm saying he was running a government in that he put people in places that were often qualified for those jobs and did try to solve some problems, okay? I'm not sitting here lionizing Reagan, trust me. Newt Gingrich didn't intend to solve a single problem.
To your point, Cliff,
Good.
The difference between Reagan and Gingrich is Reagan had a philosophy. We don't agree with his philosophy, but he had a philosophy. He put people in place who would carry out that philosophy. Gingrich, and all the way up through MAGA, their philosophy is basically Democrats are bad, we're good, we're going to oppose anything they support. And that's their political philosophy. And that's why they flip-flop on everything within a very short period of time. Oh, I'm opposed to the employer mandate, so I'm going to support the individual mandate. And then Democrats say, okay, let's do the individual mandate. And they say that's unconstitutional. Well, that's because they never really cared about the individual mandate at all. That's how they can run on character and say Bill Clinton, character is destiny. William Bennett can write a book about virtues and say virtues are the important thing. And then Donald Trump goes along and they go, yeah, well, that doesn't matter. That's how Dick Cheney.
And in between, Bill Bennett was caught in like casinos, literally sitting there pulling slots like 40 hours at a time. And I wouldn't give two damns about it. That'd be his right, except for he's lecturing the rest of us on our behavior.
So the whole thing is they went from having a philosophy and one that we don't agree with, but at least it was a philosophy to, hey, if we're for it and they're against it, that's good by me. If they're for it, we're against it. And that's pretty much how they've been, as you said, since Newt Gingrich. And that's why Congress is basically, it's a show and not a good one.
Well, before we get to, no, you're right. And I'll say quickly, somebody in here put Reagan, who's at Casmo. Yes, Reagan believed in immigration. He did. Reagan was pro-immigration. Again,
Yes.
I'm not going to sit here and defend Reagan, but he's pro-immigration. He eventually negotiated a huge arms reduction deal. And, he spent a lot of money and did a lot of stupid shit before that. Again, he came out and wrote in the early 90s, when the Brady bill was passing, he wrote a New York Times op-ed arguing in favor of an assault weapons ban and universal background checks. Again, he was not like he was somebody who was mostly wrong and was callous on a number of things on AIDS in the gay community. Horrible. Again, I'm not defending him. But what I'm saying is he did have a philosophy, as Brett said. He was actually moderate and reasonable on certain things, wanted to work with Democrats. Whereas Newt Gingrich, from the moment he got there, it was all about power and demonizing Democrats. And it's been that way for them, with exceptions, because they kept some of their good people along the way were still there. A Jim Jeffries here, or a Olympia Snow there. But they all eventually left. And most of them now are endorsing Kamala Harris, who are still with us. I mean, a huge number of them. Senator Gordon Humphreys and, like all these people that were around then, the New England Republicans and a lot of the other ones on the West Coast. In any case, okay. So let's get past that. Tell people, because I think people will want to know, and we can talk about. I think somebody said who did Operation Wetback. I think that was Eisenhower. I'd have to look at that, but I believe that was Eisenhower. That was not a good thing.
I'm old, but I'm not that old.
Yeah, I know. I studied history. I think it was Ike, but you also have to look at Ike within the context of his times. I'm not apologizing for him. He also did some good things. He defended the hell out of Social Security and the welfare state when the right of his party was trying to attack it. Okay. We're not going to find perfection here. There's no doubt. But I want to know from Brett right now. I want to know, because can you give us some names? Some races that I'm not asking for your client list. What I'm asking for is, are there races, that you've paid more attention to, that you found more interesting, that you may know some insiders on, where you have more knowledge? In some races you think we're going to win for the House, maybe an estimate of the number of races you think we're going to win for the House, maybe regionally where you think it may happen more than other places. And even are we going to take down? Because I do think if you want to destroy a movement, symbolism is important. This is why it's so important to me today, beyond Donald Trump, obviously, probably number one on the list, that we beat Ted Cruz, which I know is an uphill battle and difficult, but I do think from stuff I've been seeing, there's a good shot at it. Because you want scalps. I hate to put it that way, but you need major MAGA right-wing loudmouths, the ones that have stepped in front of the mic and pushed the envelope for MAGA to go down, because that's what will scare some of the other ones. Scared straight, is that right? They used to say about drugs or whatever. That might scare them away from MAGA if a couple big names go down. So a Stefanik, a Scott Perry. Somebody asked about Scott Perry before. I mean, they did go and confiscate that fucker's phone. I don't know whatever happened with that, but okay, I've already asked you 4 questions at the same time, so I'll toss it to you. But I mean, if you've got individual races, if you've got regions where you think will do particularly well, and you've got overall numbers, and if you've got leaders of the MAGA, whatever, anything along those lines, I would love to know about.
So a couple of things to understand before we talk about specifics. So Democrats need to take back 4 seats to win the House. That's been complicated by the fact that there was hard redistricting in North Carolina. So there are 3 seats we are expected to lose without much of a fight. So that 4 seats that we need now is 7. However, the Supreme Court...
Okay, is that because did the courts undo something?
Yes.
They screwed us.
Yes.
Okay.
But
didn't we also have a gift seat given to us in Alabama?
Court, yes, they changed the Voting Rights Act. So there's 2 seats that we get back. One is Louisiana 6, which the Republicans aren't really contesting. And then there's one in Alabama, which the Republicans are contesting. We're likely to win, but not guaranteed to win. So what is really not 4 seats, it's probably 5 to 6 that we have to win back. right off the bat, New York has 3 seats that they're favored to win. Democrats are
I like
favored
that.
to win New York 4. Anthony D'Esposito versus Laura Gillen. Laura Gillen was the mayor of Hempstead, and Anthony
The Island,
D'Esposito.
baby.
Yes, Anthony D'Esposito is very impressive. He's a Republican who managed to have, I believe, his fiance's daughter and his mistress both on the congressional payroll at the same time.
Ooh, creative accounting. I like it.
Yes, but he had a big that scandal blew up. So I wouldn't be surprised if he loses. There are a couple of seats upstate. New York 19, Mark Molinaro. It's a Biden district, and New York 22. Democrats redistricted. They made those a little bit more Democratic, not a ton. So those are 3 seats that are expected to go our way. There are also a couple more also in Long Island that are probably a little harder. New York 1 and I forget which one. I think
New York 1 is the one that Avalon's running in, isn't it?
Yeah, he's still considered.
He was my editor at the Daily Beast.
So
yeah.
Those are, but they're expected to take 3, and then there are 5 seats in California, all held by Republicans that are either lean Democrat or pure toss-up. So just in New York and California alone, if Democrats take back 6 seats, which is not out of the realm of possibility, in fact, probably favored to do that, we would have the House versus watching what happens the rest of the nation. I would urge people who are interested, to hold their powder because we don't know how California is going to turn out. They count ballots, incredibly slowly.
That's going to go. Yeah. Do you see the 2 on the screen here too that somebody else asked about? Because the Seltzer poll showed that we could, Iowa is one of the few states that actually has a nonpartisan redistricting in place. They had it before everything got so political, and they've kept it so that there's really mostly fair seats there. And I know one of those seats, I'm guessing, is the one. She was a veteran. I can't remember her name. Meeks, whatever. She won by 6.
Marionette Miller Meeks. And
she won by. That's one of the ones I always use. She won by 6 votes, I believe.
Yes, that's a seat that's to watch. And actually, Iowa 3 with Zach Nunn. Our candidate, a Democratic candidate, is Lannan Backham, who is, I believe, a Southeast Asian veteran. If Seltzer is correct, that seat is actually open, or Democrats have a real good shot at that too. But for your watchers, for your viewers, we're going to get a good idea early in the evening. Virginia has 2 seats that are up. Abigail Spanberger is leaving Congress to run for governor. That is Virginia 7. And Jennifer Kiggins is a Republican congresswoman. That is Virginia 2.
Who's the Democrat in that race?
Do
you know? If you don't, it's okay. If you don't,
Missy Cotter Smazel.
Yeah. Okay. I've seen the name. All right. I don't know much about her, but I've seen the name.
So if we hold Spanberger's seat and are edging closer to taking Virginia 2, I think that's a good night. If we lose the Spanberger seat, it might be a night to open up the alcohol a little bit early. But those are really good indicators of where things are. I feel like when all is said and done, Democrats will take back the House have a 3 or 4 seat majority. It's going to be tight.
Wow, you've got a conservative take on this. I mean, because I've looked at some other pollsters, other folks who have been much more in the 15 to 20 range, is what they were saying. Yeah, I mean, again, I wish I had looked more and understood more. Somebody asked before about Anna Paulina Meyerhofer, Luna, whatever her name is.
Anna Paulina Luna.
She's apparently losing. She's behind in that one because.
So that's another really
crazy.
Good indicator. Yeah, that's another good indicator, and it's an early race. Democrats are probably a bit of an underdog in that race. If we're winning that race, then we can take out the party hats.
If the poll was accurate, I saw. I'm trying to remember. I generally don't pay attention if I look and it's from somebody I don't trust. So that one I think was from somebody I trusted, which is why I paid attention. And I think she was, I think it was close, but she was down. But okay, we'll see.
One thing I would say is you and a lot of the people like you deserve a huge pat on the back because seriously, not just you, but your viewers and all the folks, Democrats absolutely destroyed Republicans in fundraising in the House. Just I wrote down some numbers here in those New York
Way to go, guys.
Laura Gillen and Anthony D'Esposito in New York, in the third quarter, she had a $1.2 million cash raise advantage. Josh Riley versus Mark Marinaro in New York 19. Riley raised just about $8 million. Molinaro, the Republican incumbent, raised 4.8. You go down the line in almost every major race, Democrats outraised their opponents, even whether they were an incumbent or not. That's unheard of, absolutely unheard of. And for us to have that advantage, for those campaigns and candidates to have that advantage is phenomenal. And if we have a good night tonight, which I think we will, that's a huge reason. Look, money isn't everything, but all things considered, I'd rather have more of it than less of it on a campaign.
Well, and I think,
personal life.
and I've talked about this when it comes to Senate races, and it applies here too. Now we've had a few people ask in here, Diane Capobianco, great, fantastic Italian name, by the way. I'm married into an Italian family, so I appreciate it. We've got some people who are asking about Vindman, Alexander Vindman, of course, Eugene's brother. Would you have thoughts on that?
That's the seventh race. That's what I was talking about. That's the Spanberger seat.
He's in the Spanberger. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's going to win. I think he did it because, again, fundraising advantage is phenomenal. Derek Anderson was the guy who had the mailer where he was with a family, but it wasn't his family.
Right. That's right. Again, they're not weird at all. I loved when they said to us, you're just saying that because you want to. Now, it's completely not weird to be like, hey, I think I'm going to take a picture with somebody else's family and pretend it's mine. That's absolutely what normal people do. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
As funny as that is, I just wanted to be there when he asked his friends, hey, man, funny question.
Can I borrow your family?
Can I borrow your wife and kids? I got to take a photo.
Your family doing anything this weekend? Yeah. All right.
Just super weird. So that's a race.
Aren't there like one or two that we came close to? I don't mean to, but I feel like there are one or two we barely lost in Texas that are ones that we possibly have a shot at. But maybe I am dreaming. I don't remember anymore. But
I think we were the folks who were on the posit. We were the incumbents in those seats, so we're hoping to hold on rather than
Colin Allred. I guess we have to hold that seat.
Yeah. Another seat to look at is Don Bacon in Nebraska too.
Huge.
That's a big seat. So it's funny. The two individual districts that can switch presidentials, both Nebraska and Maine. We currently hold Maine 2 with Jared Golden. He is going to have to struggle to hold on to that seat because Trump is going to probably win that district by.
That seat's gone more because it's very rural northern Maine. I know I worked in Maine, so I know Maine pretty well. And that's the rural, sort of getting up towards the border with Canada. A lot of strong French Catholics that are more conservative, rural. Yeah.
John Baldacci. That was
I remember him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and then Bacon has the more liberal seat in Nebraska.
I think we take him out because because and this is why I even think we have a chance if the night goes really well at the Deb Fisher thing with Dan Osborne. And I'm not saying I still think it's an outside chance. But the reason why I think there is a chance is because we have our vaunted turnout operation in at least part of Nebraska. We will be turning out every Democrat that exists in Nebraska too, just because we need to for the presidential race, because again, you win the blue wall states and you don't win the others. You still need one more electoral vote, and that would come from there. So a big priority is put on it. And I think that helps, considering they have no turnout operation, except for Elon Musk breaking iPads and throwing kids into the back of seats, of vans without seats, and driving like fucking, what's his face, Walter White in the messed up fucking trailer or whatever. Can't think of the RV. I think that we take definitively Nebraska 2, and I think that at least puts that seat, because Osborne's been polling so well, tentatively in play. Even though I would say, obviously, I wouldn't bet on us there, and I think it's an uphill battle, but I think we have a shot.
One race I want to have everybody sort of key in on. It is not a targeted race. It is not a MAGA leader, but it's Sarah McBride in Delaware. Sarah McBride, if she wins, will be the first transgender member of Congress.
I didn't know that. That is outstanding.
And
diversity, yes. Breaking down some barriers.
One of my good friends is her campaign manager, and it won't move us a step closer. It'll just be a Democrat taking a Democrat seat, but it will be highly symbolic and very important. And you were talking earlier about sort of messages sent. Well, it would be a message from the people of Delaware that the scare tactics, the anti-trans scare tactics, don't work everywhere. And it would also
so my kid isn't going to go to school one day as a boy and come home as a girl. As they've told me, without me knowing about it, they're just going to perform the operation, as Donald Trump said. Because that's what I've been fearful of. Not a school shooter, because we let any asshole get a fucking assault rifle. I'm fearful that my boy may become home a girl. So you're telling me that's not true?
I am telling you, I believe that it's not the case. Yes.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Honestly, all kidding aside, I think it's a huge, huge victory for the LGBTQ community, but it's also a huge symbolic victory saying, hey, this is not the scare tactic you think it is. And I just want to give a shout out. A friend of mine is the campaign manager for that race, Michaela Karinsky-Malos, who helped guide that campaign to victory. It is not one of mine, so I'm not giving myself a pat on the back here. But it is a huge, huge effort.
I still think it's... Again, and though the symbolism, negative symbolism, as I said before, taking down some of the loudest mouths of the MAGA movement. I mean, sadly, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she's a terrific candidate against her. Like, he's a former admiral or whatever, Sean Harris. But but it's such a right-wing district that it's just almost impossible. Same with Boebert moving to the other district, made that a lot more difficult. But there are some of these folks. Again, Perry could lose in the seat he's in. That's not is a lean Republican seat. But I want a couple of these members of the House who have led some of the worst and been some of the loudest ones on the right. There are at least a few of them who are from seats that they can lose. And that's why I was going to ask you about. I guess Stefanik. Maybe I'm wrong. Is a more conservative seat.
But your point about Perry, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier, Perry is running against Janelle Stenson. She was a TV newscaster. And I'm just looking... Yeah,
we've raised some money for her, my group. She seems great.
Well, that's my point, though. So you're talking about Pennsylvania 10. She raised, by the end of the third quarter, she raised $4.7 million. Perry, who's the incumbent, only had $3.5 million. In the third quarter alone...
Well, in his defense, he didn't have his phone to call people... Sorry, go ahead.
But I mean, it's really important. These folks thought they were going to skate along, that they were going to use the power of incumbency to drown us out, to, if they got into any sort of trouble, they'd get the old leadership to come. And it didn't happen. The Democrats raised every bit as much as the Republicans, which is unheard of when you're in the minority. So even the super PAC spending was pretty much even. So, I mean, that's part of the reason why I feel pretty confident about this evening. And that's a victory for us all.
I do. I just think, yeah, I think Dobbs, affect turnout, which is still happening, right? We know as pollsters, I know I worked as one. Are you 18 registered to vote? No, okay, we don't need to talk anymore if you're not. But also, have you voted in the last two major elections? And if you haven't, they don't think you're a likely voter. And so many. I mean, I'm going to have to leave soon, so we're going to ask people more questions. And the reason why is I had to hold off to vote till today, and I had to because it was the only time my newly 18-year-old son, who is going today for the first time, that's right, another Democratic vote, bitches, is going with me and my wife, and we are all going to vote. And so I'll probably have to leave here about 5 minutes he's out of school to take him to go vote. But point being, the polls don't capture Gen Z. They don't capture people that haven't voted in the past two elections. And Dobbs and January 6th have just created, especially Dobbs, this rage, which I fully understand because I'm enraged too. And that's where I just think, look, yes, Trump does turn out these marginal voters that you said, as you pointed out, other Republicans have, but I don't know that there are any more of them. And he went and looked for them in 2020 and then claimed he was going to find new ones in 2024. But the problem is, A, how many more are there when they went searching through every crevice in 2020? And B, when you don't have a working turnout system, you don't have a system with experienced people who know where to find people and turn them out, what's the point? And so I just don't, I think that they're not going to be able to meet the Dobbs effect and the fact that I think these polls have been off to begin with because of the Rasmussens and the other. We'll see. But again, when I see one poll, I don't believe it. When I see Iowa, when I see Ohio close, when I see Kansas 5 points, when I see Alaska 8 and things like that, you see enough of those, you start paying attention. Okay. You see one, you're like, no. You see enough of them, you start saying, yeah, there's some pretty pissed off Democrats, particularly women out there. Again, I don't want to pin my hopes, but I do. I think we're going to, so I'm going to go north of you, Brett, and say, I think we're actually going to take more in the range of 15 to 20 House seats when all is said and done.
Well, to get to the 4 or 5, we're probably going to have to take 10 of, because of the way that it's all set up, 10 to 15 of those contested elections. But I hope so, man. I mean, like I said, I think we've done a great job. We've gotten good candidates. We've raised a ton of money. They've ran real campaigns. They've been tough. I heard you. I was watching before I came on. You were talking about not being namby-pamby. As an opposition researcher, I've never really gone in for the namby-pamby, but we've run really hardcore races and we've run really good campaigns. And I think it's going to show up tonight. And, if we do take back the House and we do have the presidency, it is a repudiation. Going back to your first questioner, it is a repudiation of MAGA. In all the other countries, the incumbent parties have seen their, one by one, they've all lost after COVID.
Yep.
And if we hold on here, it'll also be, which is crazy, of the last 9 elections, it will be the 8th time in 9 elections that Democrats got more votes.
I mean, yes, we're clearly a majority, and it's the minority, minoritarian, is that a word? Aspect of how we run things, which is why, again, the reforms that will most rebalance our democracy, if we, again, we hold the Senate too, if we do all of that, which I think we will. Again, the gold standard in Montana pollsters came out in his final poll. I think a lot of this, I got a gunshot wound in war, but I can't show you because I don't have medical records. It didn't happen when I dropped my gun in the park. That Sheehy guy, that lying sack of crap, he's also gotten in trouble for bankrupting businesses, for other fraud. Usual MAGA guy running against Tester, and Tester is so legit. Jim Williams, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Ketchup may be flying in Mar-a-Lago later tonight. Let's hope so. Who knew ketchup could fly? It can there. That I really do think he's as a gold standard there. I trust him. I think that Tester holds on, and if Tester does, and Sherrod does here, and I think Sherrod does too. Even if we don't win either the Cruz or Scott seats, both of which I think we've got a very good shot at, particularly after the Puerto Rico remarks in the Scott seat. But again, I'm not hanging my hat on them. The one I feel most strongly about, because I think Allred ran such a good race and all that, and Cruz is so unpopular, is I really do think we're going to win Texas. So if either Tester holds on or Tester loses and Allred wins, or better, best of all worlds, they both win, and maybe even Debbie Mercastle-Powell, then if we have all three branches again, like, yes, people need help. We need plenty of things we need to do, but the what's the right way to put this? The sort of foundations of democracy. It's like somebody's been whittling away at the foundations of your home, and it finally falls. We need to rebuild the foundations of democracy. Part of that is going to be learning how to handle the scourge of disinformation. Even if we're going to say everybody has a First Amendment right to say anything, even if it ends up getting people killed, blah, blah, blah. Does a Russian bot have a First Amendment right to say stuff? They don't. Like, we could ban any foreign whatever from Twitter and places. Okay. But the media as an institution taking their damn role seriously, or I think that whole sort of model is already falling apart. The ones that are doing their job, like the Philadelphia Inquirer, Cleveland Plain Dealer, people will subscribe to, and the ones that have turned into just corporate, corporatrons that walk around and do whatever, the New York Times and the Washington Post, I think we've all had enough of. That needs to be, we need to create more good media for people, and people need to watch more indie media. Obviously this is self-serving for me, but a lot of other folks besides me who, we have strong opinions, but we tell the truth. I don't come on here and lie to you. I tell you what I really think. I can be wrong, but I tell you what I really think based upon what I'm seeing. The courts absolutely have to be dealt with. I make this point again and again, but I'm going to make it right now, that even if you didn't look at how they stole Supreme Court seats, even if you didn't look at how the bar didn't think a couple of these folks were up to snuff in being there, the American Bar Association, even if you didn't look at the easily impeachable offenses by Clarence Thomas, and probably relatively impeachable offenses by most of the rest of them when it comes to land deals that Gorsuch didn't talk about, and Robert's wife making money off of lawyers that she recommends who end up in front of the Supreme Court, and all these other things that they're doing. Most people don't get that we have not added a Supreme Court justice since the 1860s. In the 1860s, this country had 30 million people. We now have 330 million people. They can't do their job because they can't even take 1% of the cases, because they do not have enough personnel to deal with a country of this size and complexity. So even if there were no politics involved at all, that court should be expanded. And I don't think to 13. I'm thinking more like 17. But when you add in the partisan ridiculousness, the Republicans in robes, whatever, there are many ways we can reform the courts, and I'm for all of them. You know what I mean? Ethics rules around the Supreme Court, all sorts of other stuff. But we need to reform our courts, in my humble opinion. And then it makes no sense to me. Last thing I'll say on this, I've said this before. I mean, D.C. and Puerto Rico should be automatically, you only need legislation to make them states. I mean, Wyoming has 575,000 people and has 2 senators. Okay? D.C. has 750,000 or 800,000. Ridiculous. Puerto Rico has 2 million. But I'd go further. We don't live in manifest destiny times anymore. I know Republicans want to. We should not have territories. The U.S. Virgin Islands, the Northern Marianas, Guam, ridiculous. So you decide if you think there's only about 150,000 people in each of them. You decide if you think that's enough that you should get 2 senators, or if you think it's too small, combine them, all 3 of them. They have, in some ways, as islands and whatever, similar interests, and they should all get a combined vote for 2 senators. So to me, at the very least, there should be 3 new states added, and there should be 6 new senators added. And guess what? You solve at least a little bit of the South Dakota, North Dakota, Oklahoma, more cows than people live here problem by doing that, structurally that way. And these are the reforms we must take on, because our democracy's gotten so out of whack. And obviously, a comprehensive voting rights plan where the feds come in like they did during the civil rights period, where all people must be able to vote with equal wait times in equal ways. None of this bullshit where it's different for everybody here, there, whatever. No. States can run it, and if they run it properly, we don't have to come in. The feds don't have to come in. But I'm sorry. This is an equal rights issue, a civil rights issue. No more vote purges, no more whatever. Universal registration, off on election day. And as far as I'm concerned, everybody must have as good voting standards as every other place. And I can go on forever, but I'll bore you. So, in the end, Brett, because I do have to leave, time to go vote with the kid. Do you have any? And I'm sorry, folks, I won't be able to answer as many questions. I answered some along the way. Hopefully, I've told you Tony's show earlier. This show, I'm feeling really good about things. I do think Kamala is going to win by a solid margin. I do think we're going to hold the Senate. I do think we're going to win the House. I'm not saying any of it's going to be easy, but if we all keep doing it all day today, call, knock on doors till the very last moment, donate, do whatever you can. Call friends who maybe didn't go out and vote, family members, drive them to the polls if they're not going. And so in any case, that's what I got. Do you have any wisdom to leave the audience with here? Oh, Brett.
Just go vote. Make your voice heard. But thanks for having me, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Brett, thanks for being here. All of you guys have been awesome. Thank you for all the super chats. Thank you for the memberships. And we'll be back tomorrow. Well, tomorrow will be mostly questions and answers, so you can ask me everything. Take care, guys, and have yourself a wonderful day, and let's go kick their asses and win this thing. Take care, guys.